Well, baddies, we're back. I am super duper excited about our conversation today, and just what we have done together and what we plan to do together in the future. Well, first, let me say welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Baddie Billionaires Club Conversations. So, a quick little recap before we hop on in. The Baddie Billionaires was a concept that I kind of came up with, and these women and many others lovingly heard my idea, and they tagged in, and we have done some amazing things together throughout 2024, and we decided to come together on a monthly basis to continue to build together and grow together. So tonight we want to set the tone for growth, collaboration, building something extraordinary together. And if you're here, I just want to say it's not just about income, it's about support, impact. So I am super duper excited to get into it today. I'm not going to continue to talk. I know that this is our first time and we may change it up and do things a little differently, but I would like for y'all to share who y'all are and say whatever's on your heart. Not, you don't have to say too much, but you can if you like, but I don't want to take the whole floor the whole time.
Well, I'll get started. My name is Tyson Whittington. Super excited, Quintaria, to be here with you. Just respect you so much in the community and what you do. And just a joy. Once I heard that you would start something like this, I said, I'm in. And I head, straight to Baltimore to help my sister out with our first Baddie's brunch last year, which was amazing.
Yes. And you did your thing too.
Well, it was fun, and Ashley was there, and we had Mercedes there. So there's some other ladies that that joined us on that great opportunity to just meet face to face. And I'm just super excited to be here. I believe that I have a lot to offer as far as the information that is available to me that I can actually get out to the community and just support what you're doing and what this is all about. So that's a good introduction as far as I can go for right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to just jump out there.
And I want to say it's what we're doing. That's why we're all here. It's what, even if the idea begins with one person, like I feel like we all have skin in the game, like we all have skin in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Ashley Nicole, and I love working with these ladies. I do feel like this is an amazing group that we have, or club, should I say, that we have started to share information and just build connections and figure out the best way, to get us where we want to be financially, maybe just, as women, as a cohort trying to, uplift other women. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. And I'm proud of you, Ashley, because I know when you called on to speak, sometimes she says a couple words and that, but that is what we want to cultivate. Like pushing ourselves a little out of our comfort zone, but still being able to be uniquely who we are and all of that good stuff. So we have segments that we'll try to stick to, but we're gonna move however we need to move in order to make this a true winning platform, right? So I'm going to start off with a quote, and it's a quote that I love. I love quotes. If you see me on other platforms, I'm sharing quotes there too. I love a good quote. I love motivation and inspiration. But for tonight, it says, "Don't wait for the opportunity. Create it." And as individuals in the insurance industry and in and around it, that's exactly what we're doing when it comes to building agencies and really just telling people financial and life-saving tools that can help them build a legacy that they desire. To achieve financial freedom is one thing, but to have stability, peace of mind, the opportunity and the resources to initiate and sustain generational wealth, to me, the most amazing part. But going back to the quote, like, don't wait for opportunity, create it. And with that being said, it just makes me really think and consider of uh the Baddie Billionaires Club to begin with. Like, when
Yeah.
I was introduced to life insurance and I came on as an agent or whatever, I went to a conference and I was amazed at what I saw. And when I came home, I was on a mission. I started inviting people, and that is where this concept kind of came from. I didn't wait for anyone to give me the green light or to tell me, like, you know what, perhaps you could put something together for other women, or like, I didn't wait. And not that it's anything necessarily wrong with getting permission or allowing somebody to open space for you, but it also is nothing wrong with you making your own opportunities too. Anybody want to share a time that you made an opportunity for yourself and how that turned out for you?
Well, just to lead on by what we're talking about now, which is a quote, which on my heart to say is, real dreams do come true. Real dreams do come true. And I just wanted to position myself to say, by us coming to this position as an agency builder type mindset and understanding why we come to this circle, I love what you said in the fact that no one had to push you. You had a dream, and that's one of the biggest things that I really um, hold on to in this industry, is that when you have that desire, that burning desire to make something change in your life, no one's going to push you. You're just going to keep going. And that's what we're able to offer here by bonding together in this industry, in the financial industry, and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to take myself and lead myself into the direction. I see so many women on the social media aspect who are constantly, sharing what they have and sharing their opportunities. But at some point, people have to make that effort to make it to them and to get that
Mm-hmm.
information. And so what we're showing you is an opportunity. Real dreams do come true. And I'm just in a position, and just like everyone here, we're in a position to share with you how your opportunities can open up. And that's what I would say. We had to step forward and say, hey, I'm going to do what it takes to get this financial lifestyle going for myself. And so I appreciate what you said, Quintaria, because it's just amazing that we're here sharing what we can do to make changes in our own career, in our own lives.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Um, Life is just so amazing, and I don't even want to say it's things that are coincidence, but if you pay attention, like, God shares like certain things to remind you, like, oh, I'm on the right path and not. But as you were talking, Ashley, I'm about to put you on the spot a little bit, but it reminded me, Ashley and I were talking today, and we were talking about, like, how some people need to be motivated and how other people just have it. And I said, like, I don't think I'm an anomaly, but it's the off now. I kind of feel like, well, where's people who are more like me? Because I kid y'all not, and y'all tell me how y'all childhood was, but as a kid, I know by first grade, I got myself up. Like,
Mhm.
I woke myself up. I fixed grab myself something to eat. I told Ashley, I said, that's how I knew, like, oh, maybe I do need help. Because I remember one time in like first or second grade, a boy was like, oh, your ponytail messed up in the back. That's because I wasn't waiting for my mom. Like, I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
we gonna shift and move or whatever. But I do think we need to take a moment, especially being that this is about conversations about building and wealth and growing. Like, where do we find our motivation? I know for the most part, like I said, innately, I've always been a self-starter. But I will say, it just out of transparency, and I'm gonna let y'all have the floor. even though I'm a fairly good self-starter, accountability I crave and want, and like, because to
Mhm.
start a whole lot and to do, even if you don't start, even if you just start one thing, right, you ain't gotta start a whole lot. But when you start to feel like I'm on an island by myself, and like what where does your motivation come from? How do you keep yourself motivated? And if y'all got a story or two or some suggestions, I'd love to hear that as well.
I think for me, my motivation comes from knowing and understanding that you are accountable for yourself. There
Mm,
is nobody out there that's gonna, take your hand as an adult and tell you, like, come on, let's do A, B, and C. It's either you're gonna do it or you're gonna be stuck in the same place. I remember as a child, um, it was just some things that like weren't really flowing in my household, that a parent should really put in place. I remember making like flow charts, like, okay, you're gonna get up in the morning, you're gonna brush your teeth, you're gonna do your hygiene, you're gonna wake up your siblings. So it's just realizing at a young age, like, you are accountable for you, and just keep it pushing that way.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, I love that because it just lets me know, Ashley, you're an amazing young lady, right? And so I'm a little older, and so for me, my life has changed. And yes, probably when I was your age, that's how, that was my feeling. But my children, when I first my son, my oldest son, he got into high school, and those shoes turned into 250.
Yeah.
That was my motivation because I couldn't take my son in that store and say no. And so
Yeah.
my motivation was if he needed it and he wanted it, I wanted him to have it. And so for
Mm,
me, my life has always been about making the experience the dream. And life is nothing but experiences. And so as we continue to get into that position of saying, well, you know what, I want to experience that. I want to experience jumping out of the airplane. I want my son to experience jumping out the airplane. And so when you're able to see these things actually manifest and be beyond your dreams of you just making the effort, say, I'm going to make this happen for myself. That's my motivation, is seeing my kids live their dreams just like how I design my own mind and my own life by saying, hey, I want this in my life. So by that, I have to figure out that way. What's that way that I have to, go down that road or whatever to get to that? And so that was my motivation. And that's what is my motivation now, is just bringing those live experiences to now. Yep.
I
So
love it. I love it. And for those of you all who are hopping in, if you cut your cameras on, feel free to. If when you cut your cameras on, we'll gladly bring you up because we definitely want everybody involved in this conversation. Welcome, Nicole. We don't I feel like every time and yeah. So I'm gonna say this: put your cameras on if you want to come up. If you don't want to come up, either drop it in the chat or whatever. And we're still, oh, hold on, I'm saying, oh, people are dropping in the chat. See, that's what happens when you live. You gotta maneuver a whole lot, right? Nicole, do you want me to bring you up?
Or I
Okay.
didn't want to be.
No, no,
Uh,
no. We want, let me, this is, we don't know it all, but we are creating a space where we are sharing, and I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and so on and so on.
Okie dokie.
welcome,
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Hey, ladies. I'm sorry I had my camera
Okay,
off because I was
we moving on
finishing
up.
dinner with my family. But thank you. It's so nice to see you, Kentaria, and let the brunch, that right there, especially your daughter's potatoes. Oh my God. Still haven't gotten them off my mind. But the brunch was amazing. I was excited when Mercedes called me today and invited me in. So thanks
Yeah.
for inviting me. I just wanted to say that this right here is what I've been missing for quite some time.
Mm,
Um, Real good energy, people like me, genuine women that are really out for supporting and not for anything but that. And so I already know that the space that people like you and Mercedes are in is that kind of space, that kind of safe space where you know that it's really about what you're talking about. And
mm-hmm.
you had made a comment about something that made you make a decision to just jump out there. And one of the things for me, that made me make a decision is when I didn't realize that I was poor for a long, long time growing up until I became an adult. And then you look back and be like, man, I was poor, you
Mm,
know. And I had already told myself that when I had children, um, things were going to be different. And I thought they would just be different. And then I realized I had to make them different,
mm,
you know,
Definitely, yeah.
and so it's like almost like you breaking a chain,
Mhm.
of a lifestyle that, um, you don't really know that you're in it until you're outside looking in. And it's not a fault of anyone or any parents. It's just that the upbringing sometimes will just continue to roll from generation to generation until somebody steps out of that
mm-hmm.
chain. And so those were those little moments in my life made me make a decision to be that different person. I didn't understand why I was different than them, but I knew that I wasn't like that. And I was like this, like the women that I'm talking to. I was like you guys. And it's okay.
Yeah, I can relate to so many things you said, but I want to point out two things. One, the when you mentioned you didn't realize you were poor, I will never forget. I was a young adult. I was in my early 20s. My mom was selling the house that I grew up in, and so I'm helping her put away stuff. And baby, I saw an old tax return. So now I'm old enough to kind of understand money or whatever. And I didn't grow up like wealthy, but we didn't want for anything as far going back to like what Nicole said, like like we didn't want for anything, so I didn't know any better, right? But I saw a tax return of hers, and I think it might have said like 15,000 or something for the year, something. I was a man, and I'm in my 40s. So, like 80s, 90s is when I was a child. But even then, I still was like, oh, you made it because I had my own room. I had, I may not have had Gucci Prada from my mama, but, like, the new shoes or that, like it wasn't like I was the kid that stood out as being poor. But when I saw that, I was like, yo, it really let me know that these mamas and stuff, mamas, parents, or what, they be working miracles for you. And then the other thing that Nicole said that really just uh and let me know, like, oh yeah, it's some alignment here, is I'm from Detroit. I grew up in, love Detroit, love my city, love, it gave me grit and all types of things, right? However, as a young girl, even in other places that I went to, I knew real quick, I was like, oh, I ain't urban.
Absolutely.
Oh, this urban, like, and like some of the trauma and some of the things that I don't know where you all are from, but growing up in inner city in the 80s and 90s, like there were kids in my middle school or high school that were murdered, and you might have to step over them, or the police. I was like, oh yeah, this ain't. I don't know for sure what I'm supposed to do, but
Hmm.
baby, this is not. So when Nicole was sharing that, I could so identify with that because I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to be, but I knew it wasn't that. And even to this day, people who knew me as a child, they were like, oh yeah, you was always different. You was always, and I've been negotiating strategy since the milk lunch line, baby. I've been, I
Absolutely.
negotiated strategy from day one. But if anyone else wants to share before we move to our next segment, feel free, because again, it's open forum, open discussion. We just want to build each other up. But next, we're going to talk some strategies on how we're winning, or how we can re-engage in the life insurance industry.
Yeah, well, thanks, everyone, for letting me join this. Mercedes invited me as well. Man, I just loved everything you, Contaria, you and Nicole just said, everyone. In terms of how I got started in this, I guess financial literacy has always been something that I about for as long as I can remember, honestly. But I think what turned things around for me was when I lost my dad about 12 years ago.
Mm.
And I, like you, like I never felt I lacked anything. I actually grew up, um, honestly, I think we had a pretty decent lifestyle and all of that good stuff, but I just always felt like my dad always felt like rushed, like you have to do this early. He was really big on education. You got to do this and you got to do that. And I always felt kind of resentful because I was like, why is he always in a rush? Like, why do you have to, like be the best and do this and all of that? And
Mm-hmm.
so my background is such that, so my dad is African. And so he came from extremely humble beginnings and the first in his family to get an education and go to college. And during his funeral, I met strangers who would come up to me and say, hey, if it wasn't for your dad, I wouldn't have been able to go to school. If it wasn't for your
Mm.
dad, I wouldn't have the job I had. And I was like, okay, I knew my dad, but who's this man you're talking about? And so as we were going through his things, right, we found like documents he'd had meticulously like kept, like really neatly kept with his report cards, job offers, like just everything he had in life. And I looked at his first grade report card and I was like, wait a minute,
First grade
he
report
started
card. My
school at the
God.
first grade report card and it said he started school at the age of 12. And I
Mm.
was like, and my dad was a tall man. So I was like, how did he get those long legs under a first grade, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying, desk?
Mm.
And I was like, so that's why he's always trying to get you to do things early because he had such a
Mm-hmm.
late start. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't, but he never really got into telling us just
Yeah.
how bad things were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, just like you said, your parents protect you from, and you just kind of go through things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, the more I found out, we always had everything we needed, but nothing more than we needed. Why? Because I found out my dad could have actually afforded some really nice stuff. But you know where the money went? It went to putting others through school. It went
Mm.
to making sure others could also have, you get what I'm saying, a head
Yeah.
start in. And so that's part of why I do what I do. So I have a nonprofit that provides scholarships to kids who are the first in their families to go to
Mm.
college, and also helping families and others to figure out how can you put the money aside to give your kids maybe what you didn't have, and
Mm.
so for me that's legacy, so I'm trying
Yes.
to keep that legacy for my dad going, and so that's what motivates me and that's what pushes me in doing some of the stuff I do.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yes, that was
um
nice.
that was beautiful. And I want to say you're not trying.
Right,
You
you're
are
doing
doing.
it.
You are,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
you are keeping your father's legacy going. And one of the things that she spoke to that I'm sure everyone on the call can kind of resonate with is the people who inspired us or motivated us sometimes, and depending on the background, like minorities and all of that, like sometimes they really couldn't articulate certain things, but it was how they showed us, because my grandmother was similar in the fact, now she was the opposite. She matriculated. Now her father was one of the only African American landowners in a county in Tennessee. She matriculated very quickly through school because they were all in one what you call it, they were all in one schoolhouse or whatever, and she finished at like 14 years old and went and had to rig her paperwork to go to Fisk University at a very young age and all of that. But I saw her buy a house, pay it down, put one of her kids in it, buy another house, pay it down, put another family member in it. And how one of my first property ever was Top Notch Properties. And my grandmother didn't really say a lot to me to teach me certain things, but I was the only girl in my family, and my grandmother was like my mother. So I was always at her ankle, at her waist, at her shoulders as I got. So it was things that I kind of picked up on. Oh, this must be important. And even with her owning multiple properties, I realized that other families didn't have that. They didn't, because I could go from my aunt's house to my uncle's house to my other aunt's house to my mother's house, and we owned those properties. So it was natural for me, but I realized that other families didn't have that type of leverage. So I want to just take a moment and thank our ancestors. Thank those that couldn't verbally articulate their stories, as we are doing much better at now. I think culturally we are, but they made sure that whatever struggle they went through, even if they couldn't protect you from everything, they picked one thing and they were like, okay, you're going to have that. So for your father, it was education. For my grandmother, it was land ownership, because, my grandmother, and I'm a move on from this, but she was in like the 1910 census, and her grandmother, who was a slave, was on it. So it was a big thing for her father to own land at that time. And now, like, I don't want to take that for granted. I don't want to, even now, for those who know me personally, I've been looking for land. I know I'll be glammed up, but I'm gonna get a farm one day, y'all. Now I'm gonna have to figure out how to, like, do what I do with my nails and all that. But I love land, and I love the importance of it and the stability of it. And I know I got that from my grandmother, regardless of her physically saying that or not. Yeah, this is good. So our next segment um is making money moves. So on this, we're supposed to talk about things that we're doing in the industry or in our lives that are actively making money, that is actively opening up opportunities for us to kind of bring revenue streams in, building our agencies and things of that nature. So yeah, I'm gonna put the new segment up, and we can continue to chat on from there.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and get
Yeah, yeah,
started?
yeah. Please.
Okay, so I'm just gonna follow the our session here, and
Mm-hmm.
mine is life insurance as a tool for generational wealth and lifetime income. So how do we use insurance? So there's two main things that come to my mind as we talk about this subject. And the first thing that came to my mind was when we first come into insurance, we want to kind of like have what the strategy is, how it really works. And a lot of us know about infinity baking, and we hear about it, and we really don't know what that really means.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but ultimately, there's when people start talking about it, they need to know all of the different avenues that actually means. And so what most people do is they get their paycheck, they put it in a bank. Well, some people put it in a policy, a cash accumulation policy. And so we have strategies where we call that infinity banking. And so we learn different strategies to where we have to um, keep in mind that we want our money to always grow, and we call it the rule of 72. So our mindset is always thinking like, hey, I need to make this money grow. Well, the second aspect that I thought about was, what exactly is it that we're doing here? We build agencies. And so I learned many years ago when I first got into the industry, I've actually, this year will be 10 years for me in the insurance industry, is how do you build an agency? And one of the biggest things that I use is, a lot of people say, oh, well, you start with yourself. And a lot of times people may get this agency mindset and say, okay, I'm a business owner, I own my own business. But how are you going to make this be a generational wealth opportunity for you and your family? So my mindset is teach someone else. And then you just keep teaching someone else. And so for me, it might be my son. I'm going to use my son all the time on this situation, but it might be my son, and my son takes on my business if I pass off, right? Well, my son may teach my daughter or my husband, however it may be, but we're passing this on as a generational um, legacy that we can pass on to our family. Well,
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, we share with our friends, and we just keep on pushing ourselves in that mindset. So it's kind of like lead one, teach one.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys
No,
want
I
to
I
elaborate
love
there?
I love that. Now you're gonna have to host a class to go a little more in depth with that, but I definitely love what you were saying about the rule of 72 and in my mind, and I want other people to chime in too. It just reminds me that it is systems and a procedure for everything. My
Yeah.
grandfather used to say, he was like, it's a proper way for a street sweeper to keep the streets clean, right?
Mhm.
You know, like essentially, like it is a rule and a proper way to do everything. And we need to remember that because I think many times as business owners, as individuals who are in and around insurance, as we're building agencies, you don't want to have the mindset of, well, I'm doing me and I can,
Mm-hmm.
it is so, and I'm not sure which agency everyone is with, but I love the fact that when you have opportunities that you can come in and it's already a system in place, it's already something that you can use to scale and to leverage. Because I don't know about y'all, but I have to create a whole lot of things. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
recreate everything. I really, that's one of the main reasons why I love this group. I love this audience because it's like, I know what I know. Like, y'all tell me what y'all got going on so I can leverage. You can take the information I have and leverage it. So I really appreciate you for pointing that out to us because it is a proper way to do things, and not that you can't make it your own, but I love that you spoke to strategy behind building. It ain't just like, okay, I'm gonna get in this industry and I'm gonna sell some policies and all of that, but it's like, okay, what is the most strategic way to do it? And building agency, like, to have, we talk about scalability all the time. I love the fact that in this industry, legit bringing someone in and under your agency or as a partner, however you set yourself up, but one person working can just do what the one person does. Three people working, you got a mini engine going. If they get two more people, now you got a conglomerate, and on and on and on. So I would love for us to chat on that a little more before we move off into diversification and other types of income.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if the agency building is what you wanted to focus on, but one of the things that for us in the industry, just knowing just the fact that if you put your money to the side, like most people say, okay, well, I make more money, I get a better job, right? So you're making a little bit more. Let's say you make it 10,000 more on that new job. Well, but the money's still flowing out. It's never, building. And so what we have placed in our mindset is, okay, I can't allow my money just to sit and not do anything. I need to place my money in a position to where it's always doing something. So when
Mm-hmm.
I'm sleeping and I'm not doing anything, my money's doing something.
Yeah.
So there's all different strategies in us doing that. But then let's say I'm tired this week. I might not write any policies. But I know that I trained Susie, and Susie's gonna write a policy. And now when
Susie,
Susie
write
make
them
money,
policies, girl.
Susie's going to write policies, and she got to feed her kids like I do. But I done wrote a lot of policies last week. So now Susie writing a lot of policies this week. So now when Susie write, because I trained her, I'm gonna get a little check in the mail because of Susie.
Yeah.
And then I got 10 Susies now. Now I got a bigger check because I've allowed myself to teach other people what I know instead of just sitting on my money and sitting on my gifts and sharing it with someone else.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Lord, send us those Susies.
well,
Susies,
and
where
that's the
are
thing.
you?
Yeah, and it's the thing,
You,
like in this industry, you will be so amazed. Some people think that they're gonna get in the industry and I'm gonna be a millionaire in a year. It doesn't happen that way. But if you stick with it, because like one of the things that I really, just to bring attention to what's going on in California right now,
Mm,
I really noticed that the perseverance that everyone there is experiencing is really motivational, and it's really just pushing out this energy of like, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life and what happens to you. Do you have the desire to keep going?
mm,
Because if somebody snatch up you making it, you living in Hollywood and everything is great, but then the next day everything's snatched from you, but yet you still
mhm.
got the perseverance to keep going. So that's like with this industry, it really opens my eye to the fact that all these years I put in, and I would say, hey, I wanted to be that $1 million earner. But as the years go, now I have people on my team who can and will make that million in 1 year. And because of who I continue to just keep teaching and showing, you put yourself in a position to receive it. And it sometimes you just gotta have that perseverance, just like how we see right now with people who are experienced losing their whole homes, after making it, and now we're like, well, what do they do? No, you just keep going. And it's what,
yeah.
that's what we want to tell. Even with through poverty, people think, oh, I have, I grew up in poverty, or, I'm experiencing this, but what is going to take you to get out of it? You got to persevere. You got to keep going. You got to have that burning desire inside of you. So I'm not going to take
Yeah.
over.
No, I definitely agree with what you're saying. The whole life insurance movement is something that I was never, I don't want to say like I didn't think it was a real thing. I've been educated on it. I've taken, working towards getting my license, but this past year has really put it into perspective for me,
Mm,
especially with the whole like leaving a legacy. Some of you may know that I lost my granddaddy last year, and so he left his legacy in a state for us. And dealing with this, it really put into perspective like, oh, generational wealth is a thing. Like, it's important. Like, you're leaving your legacy, everything you worked for. He had stocks and bonds and just a whole bunch of stuff. Growing up, he was very math was his thing, math and science, you know what I mean? So I grew up around math and science, but it was never explained like these are the steps you take. And just seeing it now, like, you know he's no longer with us, but just seeing all the things that he's put in place, and he's created financial stability for us beyond earth, and just having that life insurance put in place, and different things is just like, wow, like, it's important, it's really important, like,
yeah.
it's something that, like, it's made me appreciate it more. So, like, me
Mhm.
wanting to go into life insurance, and like you said, teaching other people is becoming more and more important, because being young, like, okay, maybe my job has insurance, but it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A recurring theme here is that people put things in place for us, even if they didn't explain fully what they were doing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just and I've spoke on this in on other platforms, but it is a beautiful thing if when you realize someone loved you enough to look out for you, to think for you. And that is that. And Lord, I have three adult children now and one granddaughter, so yes, I want to leave them something. But how amazing would it be even if I could just leave $10,000 for 10
Mhm.
great grandchildren, like, just to think that it does something to you, like kind of how Ashley said, just to think that, wow, Your grandfather left provision. He left, and the Bible
Mm-mm.
says, I'm not trying to turn this into, like Bible study or anything, but the Bible says that is a good thing. A man is supposed to
Mhm.
leave provision, and to think that these people who loved us, and we can work on being better at explaining it, because I do believe we need to include our generations in a way that they understand what's going on, because
Yeah.
sometimes you stumble over things that it's like, yo, being at my grandmother's knee was cool, but they should have put me on their lap and let me see what the paperwork looked like, and things of that
Mhm.
nature. But I just, when I see recurring themes, and because some of us know each other, some of us don't, but we all, I just keep seeing that pop up, and I don't want to miss that. I want to acknowledge that it is a beautiful thing to have someone love you enough to say that I'm not just thinking about the years that I will be on earth. I
Yeah.
am considering make and I believe planning a legacy, leaving a legacy is how we
Mhm.
live forever. Because Ashley, you have children, so that's Pop's his great grandchildren. Like,
Yeah.
they will remember him. They will
Mhm.
share some of his teachings and his stories about him. Her children, they made a coloring book for their grandfather when he passed away. Like, that's how we live forever, is having
Yeah.
a legacy that can be passed on. But what we want to do, what I want us to commit to do, is to make sure that our next generation and the generation after that has the tools, the systems in place, so that they're not having as much of a the conversation that we're having, where we're like, I didn't know what was happening, but after they
Mhm.
passed away, I kind of figured it out. But I would love, with what Ashley said, I would love for us to move to the next segment, and that is the segment where we kind of brainstorm and really open up the floor to kind of share what a commitment that we can have, something that we can implement, an action plan that we can commit to putting into place, that will help us get to the next level.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you guys just said, and especially with Ashley, your story, and may your grandfather's soul rest in peace.
Thank you.
Um, so for me, I think that really resonates with me because, again, I truly believe in financial literacy, especially for the next generation. And that's where the education really comes into play. So I am very committed through the work that I do in terms of in financial services, as well as in my nonprofit, to make sure I can help to get that financial literacy out to our kids as early as
Mhm.
possible. And so, I think that the Bible scripture that came to mind as you were talking, Quinteria, was when the Bible says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." And so that's really how it continues to go and generate, generation after generation. But at the same time, the Bible also says that my people perish for lack of knowledge, which means what you don't know can in fact hurt you. And so our hope is that through the information that we have, right, we can ensure that we don't hurt the next generation. We can
Mhm.
do things differently, which means to put the tools, put the information out to them as quickly as possible. So I have found since starting my career that I tend to actually do really well, mostly with like the Gen Zers.
Mm,
It's really an audience that I just truly enjoy being able to provide the education as they're starting their careers, to be able to say, here are some of the things you can start to have in place now
mm,
while you're healthy and you're young. Lock
yeah,
Mhm.
in, you know,
yeah.
and being able to do that. So yeah, so it definitely resonates. And also a situation when I'm working, especially with parents of young children, and being able to let them know that, listen, this is how now with your baby. your toddler, your young child. This is what you, or your grandbaby. You know what I'm saying? This is
Mm-hmm.
what you can do now to start to leave that inheritance. And these are some of the things you can do. Once your kids are teenagers, send them my way. I want to share this information with them so they can have the tools they need to make some of the right decisions going forward.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, your commitment is to continue to build relationships with the you said Gen Z, and to help families understand and realize the power of investing in our children through life insurance.
Yeah.
I had a call today. I was going over an illustration it's a family member. She's married to my first cousin, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get right to my story, but it just pains my heart at times that I'm doing all this financial, I have all these financial resources and I'm sharing all of this financial information, but with family, it's like, come on, y'all, please, like I don't want to save the world and leave y'all. So
Mhm.
it was a joy to have her reach out because it's like, okay, like if I get her, then somebody else will see it or whatever. But long story short, I want to say when we were looking over their policies and the information about their policies, the policy for the children quadrupled. So, like $100,000 policy over the course of, by the one of the children she was looking at getting a policy for. Mercedes is joining us. One of the ladies one of the children was 6 years old. $100,000 policy, and by the time the child will be like 46, it was like 50,000 in it. By the time the child is 69, just in the cash accrual, it's nearly $200,000 in the policy. Whereas for her policy, and she's like late 40s, like hers was not as much, but we had that conversation that we just spoke about a minute ago on, see, this is why it's so important that when your children are younger, because like for $50, the child is 6, but for $50 the policy will accrue to be over $1 million in cash value within a reasonable time in her life. So when the child goes to retire, or when she's she has a cash value within this policy that is pretty phenomenal. And then their death benefit, as you know, so it starts at 100,000, but I think at like 65 years old it was at 400,000. So that, going back to what we were saying before about leaving an inheritance for our children's children's children, what we're doing with life insurance and annuities and all of these plans that we have is doing just that. So we have to be committed to it. So we're going to hold you accountable and we do this once a month. So next month we're going to ask you, okay, how many of them Gen Z's did you holler at? How many lives did you save, and so on and so on. So someone else, I would love to hear what you are going to do to kind of invigorate your agency, to put yourself on the map so that we can hold one another accountable.
Well, I personally would like to stay focused on remembering the strategies to help people so they can mentally know as far as moving forward in a financial building situation. For me would be always having that emergency fund, because you can have a policy and you can still be in a position to where you're contributing, but then you can't, say for instance a new policy, you can't touch cash value till after 2 years. And some people think, oh well, I can have this revolving door on my money, but really there's rules.
Yeah.
And so and with those rules, that's really just earning yourself the stability. You're earning yourself stability when you are letting that money grow. So, but on the outside of that, pushing yourself that extra mile to have that financial stability by having an emergency fund. And so for me, I would say just kind of keeping my clients informed on all of the things that they would need to accomplish their financial dreams and goals. And once you get to that point, because some people may be in a position to where they want to excel, which may be, buy some property, like you said. And how do you do that when you have your money locked up? You know,
Mm-hmm.
you want to keep growing and keep, position yourself. And I, like myself, like I said, I just want to continue to just have that as my main conversation and say, hey, I want to remind you, because a lot of times, like our elders, I will say, have been caught up in a position to where they got these policies and they didn't invest, right? And so we want to eliminate that part. And I like what she said about the Gen Z, because the millennials really are all about money. They want to make sure they're ready for retirement. They want to make sure that they have themselves positioned with credit. They want everything right for them. They want to just look good and feel good. But when it comes down to the Gen Zs, a lot of times they fall behind a little bit because their parents weren't teaching them that. And so are in that position to where it's like, okay, well, we have to continue to teach Gen Z because they're just still not there yet. So we're in a position now just seeing how all of these new technologies, as far as like what we use, Mercedes an expert on IUL policies, and just be in a position to see how that thing can become a money cash machine. So do they know that? No. You ask someone, hey, do you know about an IUL? No.
Yeah.
But millennials, they are learning, and you can tell that they're really expanding their financial knowledge and really pushing themselves to get themselves in a position to want that better financial leverage. So again,
Gotcha.
I would just mainly stay focused on building the emergency fund mindset.
Gotcha. Anyone else want to share so we can hold one another accountable when we reconvene next month?
I think for me, it starts in home. I have tiny people here at home, and Quintari, as you know, they're with me all the time, like hanging somewhere. They're my little coworkers. They have questions, and they're brilliant. They're bright. They are around. So many of our conversations around business
Mm-hmm.
and finance, and with my youngest being 6, don't let the age fool you.
Yeah.
Like her questions and her ability to absorb information and then say it back to you is amazing. So in home, start at home with financial literacy. We
Mm.
go to the store all the time, and the girls will be like, well, mommy, this is only $7, and explain to them, $7 for an apple versus $7, for, I don't know, something more extreme. Having them understand the value, where it's appropriate, and really understanding that, just pay attention, and figure out how to really implement that financial literacy at home.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, so this time next month, financial
Hey.
literacy at home. Mercedes, as we close out, thank you for making it. Mercedes had a lot going on, but it looked like she on the road
I'm in
on a
the
dark
car.
street in Mississippi. Look like my girl on a dark street in Mississippi, and she
Look,
still made it
I'm
home.
in the car. I am here, but I wanted to show up, guys. I just got finished helping a wonderful family put in place where they're gonna have $1.5 million in 15 years. So
Oh well, honey, that was
with this
worth.
policy,
Yes, it was.
tax
Congratulations.
tax free, by the
Mm,
way, okay, in these concepts that I know you guys discussed. So I tried my best to finish up, but I had to be thorough. I was in the middle of the appointment, right? But only thing I would say also, guys, is if you're watching this, be open to learning about what's out there for you, because one of the things that our clients always say is, oh my goodness, I didn't know that this existed. I
mm,
didn't know that
Mhm.
you can have tax-free income, that you can have money access to right now. I didn't know that I can protect my income with living benefits. I
Mhm.
didn't know that I can transfer my estate or money for my estate completely tax free. So just continue to have that open mind to learn and put together a plan to get there. But first you got to get the education from these financial professionals. So I know you ladies did an awesome job. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I wasn't gonna say nothing. I was just gonna
Yeah,
sit
no,
here
honey.
and on.
No, we don't. You don't get off that easy. Even on the dark road in Mississippi, you got to speak, girl. And
Thank
I
you.
will say, I am going to face my rejection and go back to people that we've had conversations in the past, and for whatever reason they didn't follow up, or they didn't. It's a new year, a new season, and I am committed. I think of it this way: if my children or my granddaughter were about to step in the street and I saw a car coming, I wouldn't worry about being rejected. I wouldn't worry about how I look or whatever. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to try to save their life and keep them safe. And I am going to really press in to make sure that I keep that same energy for potential clients. I keep that same energy for extended family. I keep that same energy for people that we've had conversations and it kind of fell off. I'm going to go back and try to snatch them out of these streets, baby, and get them insured and get them in a position where they can leave a legacy and have a legacy. So I'm gonna need y'all to hold me accountable for that. And Nicole, it looks like you hop back up. You got
Yeah, because
something that you
I
want us
wanted to
to
say
hold you
one last
accountable
thing.
for?
Yeah, one last thing for me, because for me, entrepreneurship started a long, long time ago, but I got into insurance in 2014. And with business, period, I just look at it as business. I had a cleaning business, sold stuff out the trunk of my car, whatever it is to make your money, right? I never really had any intentions on selling anything to anyone. I always had an intention on educating someone about why they need to uh, hear what I have to say, regardless of what it was. And so I never go in any kind of communication with anyone about life insurance or mortgages or, whatever I might be doing. I really go in with trying to get to know you so you can get to
Mhm.
know me. And then we start having a conversation about things that we end up always having in common with somebody they know or somebody I know. And next thing you know, guards are down, conversation is open just to share, because it's all about sharing information so that we all can give each other a hand up. And if it just so happens to be that this information is about what I do for a living and it can benefit you, great. But if it's not, great. Now you know about me, what I said, and you'll tell someone else. And maybe that person may need me for what I do for a living, And that's basically how I just walk in my light in my businesses.
Nice.
Ladies, this has been an amazing kickoff session for the Baddie Billionaires Club conversations. Join us every month. We need to make sure we stay in contact in between, but I want you to consider someone else who may find value in this. And the goal is, and I think we did an amazing job because tonight was more than just about businesses and building
Mm.
businesses. We shared legacy. We
Yeah.
shared the vision for our legacy. We shared the legacy that others left for us. So as life insurance professionals, we have the power of impact. We have the power to love on ourselves and our community. And I just want to thank you all for showing up. I want to thank you all for engaging. And I want a commitment that when we return next month, we will, in love, see what if we've moved the needle forward, where we need support. We'll invite others. But this Baddie Billionaire Club, honey, we're going to do some amazing work together. We're coming up on our hour. I want to say you all have a great evening. We will all be in touch, and y'all go and be baddies, honey. Ew. Y'all have a great night.
Have a good night, guys.
All right.